Good evening and welcome to Reality Check. And once again, the nation woke up to some rather sad and rather disturbing news from Kupwara. 3 Jawans martyred, a terror attack on a military camp just outside Kupwara, a captain among those who were actually killed. And then, of course, we've been seeing the pictures all through the day. We will continue to play them for you. This, of course, coming just a couple of days after that other attack that we saw in Sukma. And this really a part of a series of attacks that we have been seeing stretching back months and months and months. And lots of very big questions actually do arise from all of this. Why is it that we are not being able to do more to ensure the security of our soldiers, of our Jawans, and of our military camps? Because at the end of the day, you can say that these are Fidai attacks and terrorists have got inside and the terrorists were killed. Well, 2 of them at any rate were killed. But at the end of the day, what is happening to security around these places? What is happening to the security of our Jawans? Because we can keep on mourning them after they are gone. We can talk about honoring their memories. But at the end of the day, the best way to do that would be to ensure that they aren't killed in the first place, that they aren't martyred in the first place. And we have some great panelists who are going to be joining us to shed their light on what can and what should be done. General V.P. Malik, it's a pleasure to have you with us. You've been in charge of the army and specifically in Jammu and Kashmir. Maybe you can shed some light on what can be done. Harinder Baveja reported extensively from Jammu and Kashmir, may be able to explain why they're being able to get in with so much ease out there. Samir Kaul joining us from the National Conference. Suhail Bukhari is with us as well, representing the government, the PDP out there. Sambit Patra from the BJP and Manish Tiwari from the Congress Party. Thank you all so much for being with us. General Malik, I'd just like to start off with you actually, because look at the cycle and look at the scale of violence that is happening in terms of soldiers being killed in Kashmir in terror violence. Yes, it was 2008 we saw something like 90 soldiers being killed out there in terror violence. Then it started to come down, 78, 69, 30. 2012, it was just down to 17. But now that number has been picking up again. 61 in 2013, 51, 41. 2016 was the worst year since 2008 when it comes to soldiers being killed in terrorist violence in Jammu and Kashmir.
Look, Vikram, we have to remember that we are having a proxy war with Pakistan. And Jammu and Kashmir, a very sensitive state, I have noticed, I have experienced that whenever the law and order situation, governance in Jammu and Kashmir has weakened, we have had more incidents both inside the valley as well as along the line of control. And I'm afraid we've been having a weak situation where a large number of agitations have been taking place, stone pelting has been carrying on. Right. And these are the occasions, these are the time when the other side, from the Pakistan side, they like to exploit it. And the other thing is that whatever we may try and do our level best along the line of control, you will always find a few Fidain will be able to infiltrate and cause the damage which we have seen. This, you cannot totally eliminate it. We will have to keep facing such situation. And we must also remember that today our deterrence has eroded. We are not able to deter the other side from indulging in these kind of situations.
All right, my colleague Nazir Masoodi has been there in Kupwara at the site, had some slightly worrying things to report. For example, the same villagers in the area who once used to be giving assistance, giving support, being broadly sympathetic to the security forces in the past. This time, a somewhat different situation. Nazir Masoodi has this report.
At 4:30 a.m., 3 terrorists cut through 2 layers of barbed wires to break into this army camp. In the gun battle that followed, 25-year-old Captain Ayush Yadav was shot dead, as were Subedar Bhoop Singh Gujar and Jawan Venkat Ramana. A 35-minute gun battle continued till the army was able to kill the 2 terrorists, who they say are foreign militants.
Identity is being ascertained, but the material which has been found points likely towards a foreign terrorist.
Half a kilometer away from the army's artillery base, a nightmare for security forces as search operations continued for a 3rd terrorist. Stone pelters from neighbouring villages began attacking the Jawans. They demanded the bodies of the terrorists be handed over. As the situation progressively deteriorated, the army had to open fire in self-defense. A 70-year-old man lost his life. One of the biggest worries for the Indian Army at the moment is being able to defend their facilities. Over the last year, terrorists have been able to breach outer defences and take the battle inside bases. On January 1st last year, Pakistani terrorists entered the Pathankot Air Force Base. 6 security personnel were killed. On September 18, 2016, 17 soldiers were killed in the Uri terror attack, which resulted in the surgical strikes across the line of control. In November last year, terrorists entered an army unit stationed at the Nagrota Base 16 Corps headquarters on the outskirts of Jammu. 7 soldiers, including 2 officers, were killed.
After Nagrota attack, this is the second major Fidaiin attack on an army camp in Kashmir. Clearly, nothing is stopping militants from breaching highly fortified military installations in Kashmir. What is more worrying for the army and security agencies is this open public support for militants and separatism. In Panjgam, Kupwara, with cameraman Amir, Nazir Masoodi for NDTV.
Harinder Baveja, if I could get you in, because Harinder, you reported also extensively from Jammu and Kashmir at perhaps the worst of times in the early 1990s, where the number of armed terrorists in the valley were to a magnitude of many, exponentially perhaps more than they are right now. There used to be terrorists and militants all over the valley. Perhaps they were never quite able to attack army installations from inside the way they're being able to do quite right now. Is that just because these are Fidai attacks with a different attitude, or is there something else to it?
No, a Fidaiin attack, you know, Vikram, people who are coming in from Pakistan are willing to die. So, you know, they will come in and they will try and extract maximum casualties. But I don't think we've done enough to secure either the line of control or our own camps. Certainly we haven't learnt lessons, because after Pathankot you had Uri. Uri was a very big attack. After that you had the surgical strikes. So it's one thing to, you know, target Pakistan and try and prevent people from coming in from across the line of control. But clearly we need to do a lot more, because if you look at what happened in Uri, the suicide bombers were actually able to cut the wire and enter the army camp unknown to people guarding that camp. Now, those kind of situations are highly avoidable. I think it's time for a complete review of the kind of security that is available around such camps.
Right. Time for a review. Again, let me just get Sambit Patra in, and Suhail Bukhari actually first, before I come to you, Sambit. Suhail Bukhari, there is a certain, obviously what is happening is very worrying, not just because of the attacks in the camps, then of course stone pelters coming in and attacking the army as they try and get, you know, any of the other terrorists who might be there. So the situation is deteriorating. But when it comes to the security of these camps, is there any thought which you would have on what we can do to protect them a bit more?
Well, you know, that question would best be answered by the people who are part of the security establishment. But having, you know, reported for many years in Jammu and Kashmir, of course, as Harinder was, you know, pointing towards, we've had a series of incidents like this. She touched upon one aspect of one such attack in Uri. I am reminded of 2 such attacks that preceded Uri. For example, one that happened in Mahura itself, barely some 10 odd kilometers from Uri's brigade headquarters, and one similar attack in Kupwara in Karna. So there seems to be a pattern on how these militants have been, you know, working, and how they have been striking to inflict maximum casualties. You know, how best to deal with it is something that the security establishment and the officials would have to think about and execute. Definitely, you know, we seem to be, you know, lagging when it comes to ensuring that once such an incident takes place, we ensure that it's not repeated.
Sambit Patra and Manish, just wanted to ask you, look, from the point of view of, it's just the general said that there's a proxy war that is taking place. It's not new. That proxy war has been on since 1986. By now, there are certain lessons that we should have got. And Sambit, from the point of view of the government, is somebody taking charge, taking responsibility for what is happening? After the attack, which we saw just a couple of days back, that horrific attack where so many CRPF Jawans were being killed. We did hear a government coming out with a statement saying, why are rights activists silent on the killing of CRPF Jawans? So-called sympathizers, proponents of human rights have maintained a baffling silence. These activists raise voices, react violently when terrorists is killed. Activists take shelter in silence when a large number of Jawans gets killed. Now, fair enough. I'm not disputing the accuracy of that, and we can all get together and attack the human rights activists or attack slogan scientists or shouting students and say that they are wrong. But at the end of the day, when it comes to security, and especially the security of our Jawans, that responsibility lies with the government of the day and, of course, with the army and with the security forces. So, is the government concerned about what's happening? The rise in violence and specifically the rise in attacks on our Jawans that we've been seeing for the last so many months?
No, definitely. A government, a democratically elected government, be it in Jammu and Kashmir or be it the central government, both of them are extremely concerned, and a number of times on various platforms, this concern has been aired. As far as the answer that you are right now projecting was an answer to a lead question asked by a journalist, and that's the reason as to why that should not be seen as the
actually
total
it wasn't. It was
concern
a
of the
press
government.
release. Actually, it was a press release, Sambit, that was issued by the minister in question. It was a press release, which for some reason made people wonder, is that going to be the defense that government's not to blame, but let's point fingers at human rights activists? Which I'm not saying we should justify what X, Y, or Z is saying or shouting slogans, but the government needs to take responsibility.
2 points on this. First, coming to the Sukma issue and then about the Jammu and Kashmir issue and the Kupwara attack which has taken place only today. As far as the Sukma issue is concerned, we have to remember that this attack was by the sheer frustration of the Naxalites, and I agree with you that we should not lose even a single Jawan of the Indian Army or the CRPF. The attack was because of the fact that the speed which the development work was reaching the bastion of the Naxal inhabitation was extremely high. Remember that stretch of street, the 56 kilometers.
Sambit, I understand that. Sambit, if I could just look, I get that. I get that the Naxalites will be frustrated and they'll want to attack our Jawans. I get that terrorists will be upset with whatever's happening and they'll want to come in and attack our Jawans. That's natural. Yes, there's a proxy war. Pakistan is inimical to us. They'll want to attack our Jawans. That's all a given. But it's for us to figure out how to protect our Jawans.
I mean, it's not that the government is not concerned. It's not that the government does not want to relook into this whole thing and address the concern by seeing to it as to how the Jawans are protected. None other than Amit Shah, in fact, in one of the interviews today has said that, well, yes, review meetings are going on and very soon we will see as to how we can improvise upon this whole thing, the tackling of Naxal problem and tackling of terrorism in Jammu and Kashmir. What I heard from General Malik also, now Jalil Malik categorically said that there was an erosion of deterrence by the Indian system. Probably he meant to say that harsher methods need to be taken. I believe that all political parties need to come together on one platform and decide upon the issue that, well, yes, if harsher methods are required to punish the perpetrators of terror, we should be at least on the same platform. We should not be pointing fingers towards the government of the day.
All right, I'm going to come back to you on that theme. Manish Tiwari, you want to say something on that, and then Harinder, I'm going to come to you on that harsher methods statement that Sambit just made. Manish Tiwari.
Well, Vikram, what happened in Kashmir today is reprehensible. But we need to understand that the two situations, insofar as Sukma is concerned and as far as Kashmir are concerned, are two different security imperatives altogether. Look, whether we like it or not, the fact is that there is an internal alienation in Kashmir which is increasing. As we speak, the army has again had to open fire on civilians who were unfortunately pelting stones at that very army camp or near that army camp in Kupwara, where this encounter took place today in the morning, where 3 of our brave soldiers have died. So therefore, there is an internal alienation which needs to be addressed. Kashmir has an external dimension also, and that external dimension is Pakistan. And the fact remains that this government, unfortunately, does not have a coherent policy towards Pakistan. So therefore, you have U-turns and flip-flops happening over the past 3 years. I agree with Sambit that there has to be a national consensus on this particular issue, but for that national consensus to emerge, there has to be a clear articulation of policy by the government with regard to both the internal and the external dimension.
Harinder, Sambit said that you may need to take harsher methods right now, and perhaps we are starting to see some of that. A crackdown, for example, on social media. So it's still not actually gone into operation, but don't allow the internet to work, crackdown on social media, try and figure out what to do with stone pelters. And he says that sometimes there may have to be a consensus on it. If somebody is coming out and throwing stones at the army while they are tackling terrorists, then they are in the crossfire, and they should expect to be in the crossfire. Is that a fair enough point?
Vikram, how much harsher are we going to get? We've used the stick and we're still where we are. I mean, all of 2016, Kashmir was burning. Right now, the valley is sinking. How can you not distinguish between stone pelters and terrorists? The minute you try and blur the line between the two, you're really walking a minefield.
Harinder, I would have agreed with you. Harinder, I would have agreed with you, except that now here's the question of where the lines start to get blurred. Stone pelters in Srinagar throwing stones is one thing. When a stone pelter comes into an actual conflict area where army and terrorists are taking on each other and start pelting stones so that the terrorists can escape, then aren't they also blurring the lines to some extent?
Let me complete what I was going to say. Let me complete what I was saying. You know, I think the politicians have failed, not only the common Kashmiri who is extremely alienated, the politicians are also failing the security forces and the army, because they are not doing enough in terms of an outreach program. The same people who are pelting stones right now should have been the ones informing you that there are terrorists who have sneaked in from Pakistan, or there are terrorists near our village. But that level of confidence has been broken. The trust deficit is at its lowest. We have to stop looking at Kashmir only through the military prism. It is a political problem. The solution will not flow from the barrel of a gun, Vikram.
Let me just ask Sameer and Suhail both that question. Look, the situation is dire right now. So one is to say, somehow look after and protect the Jawans. That's a military solution. And find a military answer, find a law and order answer. Sameer, is it your view that none of that can happen, as Harinder is saying, until we actually do try and somehow find a way to restart
on the day Srinagar pulled?
It seems only right at the very outset to use your channel to convey the strongest condemnation against this cowardly highness attack which happened in Kupwara.
Right.
But tell me, Vikram, we condemned Pathankot, we condemned Uri, we condemned Nagrota. We in the state are living in a life of fear. And when is it that the governments of the day will hold somebody accountable for their inability to secure our lives? We are citizens of India, for God's sake. Now, that is one point. Why hasn't anyone owned up to it ever? Forget about owning up to it. Why hasn't anyone fixed responsibility so far? And I wonder that the internal dimension, which some of the earlier speakers talked about, is an extremely relevant thing. The external dimension, Pakistan creating trouble, is something which is very clear. Obviously, what comes out is that they are not sincere in saying that they are not helping matters. They continue to infiltrate people across. That is clear. And that they, being an enemy country, will continue to do so. But it's the internal dimension of this completely alienated population, right from the elders to the students.
Okay.
Who are somehow with each day becoming anti-center, and they're helping.
Okay. Sameer, we heard you.
They don't help us. We are not being able to solve this problem.
We got you.
We heard you. Have them on our side. We have to deal with them differently. And please, for God's sake, we must have some sort of governor's rule or whichever, but restore some sense of semblance to the state. Otherwise, I'm telling you, it's going away.
Okay. Suhail Bukhari, has the situation started to reach the point where the PDP government there, together with the BJP, is not being able to handle it anymore, and it's time now for more drastic measures like governor's rule?
Well, definitely not. But having said that, I'm not really surprised. Listening to such a thing from the spokesperson of the National Conference.
You need to understand, we have crossed the brink. We have people losing their lives every day, for God's sake. Till how long are we going to continue petty politicking? We have to rise above
Vikram,
the
can I please come in over here?
Yeah, Sohail Bukhari, can you finish? And I want to get final thoughts from
All the
everybody.
questions are directed to us.
Yeah, I am coming to you, Sambit. I'm coming to you to get you to answer that. Sohail Bukhari, you want to just finish what you were saying? Then I'm coming back to Sambit.
Thankfully, if Dr. Kaul allows me to, what they are indulging is precisely petty politics, because their party is one that has normalized extra democratic acts in Jammu and Kashmir, whether it be rigging of the elections or whatnot.
Okay, I get it. I get their party politics, but Sambit, at the end of the day, at the end of the day, you are in power at the center, you're in power at the state. Is it now up to you to start thinking of, and for the Prime Minister directly to get involved in it, and saying, we better figure out what to do so that Jawans aren't continuing to die, part one. Part two, no one should be dying. And part three, we should try and retrieve Kashmir from the brink that it is sliding towards so fast.
Vikram, it's absolutely important that we understand what the problem in Kashmir is. And you would be sure that even the Prime Minister is very concerned about it, and that's the reason as to why the Prime Minister, you know that he went and spent his Diwali there, he went during the floods also. The amount which the Kashmiris rightly owned, in fact, the package was given to Kashmir. So naturally all the concerns of the Prime Minister are for Kashmir. If alienation was the problem, then Kashmiri Pandits would have been throwing mountains. It's not alienation. You want a political solution. What is the political solution? If we ask you to articulate the political solution, then you articulate the political solution as independence or autonomy, which according to the Constitution of India is not possible.
Very quick last word from you, Harinder, then I want to get General Manik to just wrap up.
I would like to remind Sambit Patra that Arun Jaitley, currently the Finance and Defence Minister, was part
Vikram,
of a working group on autonomy. Maybe he should go back to the interlocutor's report. For God's sake, somebody open that report and read it.
Okay.
Chidambaram didn't read it. Rajnath Singh hasn't read it. Please read that report, and maybe you'll find answers there.
Okay. Last word from you, General Malik. Now, I'm afraid we are out of time on the show. General Malik, just wanted to ask you.
May I come in for a second before General Malik wraps it up?
Yeah, okay. Very quickly.
There is a need for the government to engage with the widest spectrum of people in Jammu and Kashmir. There's no point behaving like an ostrich and putting your head in the sand. There is alienation. If I can take some bit back to what Mr. Vajpayee had said, that talks with Kashmir or engagement with the Kashmiri people would encompass Insaniyat, Kashmiriyat and Jamhuriyat. There is a need to resuscitate that spirit, and more importantly, there is also a need to articulate a clear policy towards Pakistan. Till that point in time that both the internal and the external dimension are not taken care of, I am afraid we have reached a brink, and I would conclude by saying that governor's rule or president's rule is a very bad idea. I don't think removing the democratic government in Jammu and Kashmir and letting the center be the direct interlocutor is a good way of doing things.
All right, General Manik, let's set aside solving Kashmir. It is going to be a really, really long struggle. It has been, and it's going to continue to be a long struggle. I just wanted to get from you, sir, you've been the head of the army. You are familiar with the situation. Today, on a day when another attack is taking place in Kupwara, I just want to get a limited suggestion from you. How can we improve security so that more such Fidai attacks on our army installations doesn't take place? One simple point perhaps to end on.
Look, it will be too much to expect that no attacks will take place and nobody will die. Because in a situation like this, army has to not only stay in the camp, they have to move around. And when they move around, they do their patrolling, there will be some casualties because, as I said, it is a proxy war on. As far as the internal situation is concerned, I think we have to deal very firmly with the ideologues who are the ones who are inciting the public. And because of all that, today the intelligence is also drying up.
Okay.
In area where this incident has taken place this morning, we should be getting a lot of intelligence, local intelligence. But apparently that is not happening. So something is going wrong, and we have to handle the internal security situation, law and order situation very firmly.
All right.
Not only within, but also along the line of control.
All right, that's all we have time for right now. But unfortunately, I don't think that's the last discussion on Kashmir we are going to be having, because The situation there is alarming, it is deteriorating, and it requires attention at the highest levels. We have to find a solution not just for the stone pelting and the alienation and the violence that we are seeing, but also on the attacks on the Jawans and the soldiers out there. This has been, I think, the fourth or the fifth major Fidai attack on an army or a security forces installation in the valley since 2016. Pathankot, Uri, Nagrota, the list goes on and on. We have to find a way to stop this spiral. That's it for the moment on Reality Check. We'll be back next week.